Chapter 8. Education as Restitution. Knowledge as the New Public Dividend. 1. The Hall and the Diploma. In a converted gymnasium in northern Manitoba, a crowd gathers for a graduation ceremony unlike any before it. The graduates range from 18 to 80, single parents, retirees, tradespeople, and new Canadians. Each holds a tablet instead of a scroll. On its screen glows the emblem of Learn Canada, the federal open education platform. As the local chief shakes hands with one graduate, he says quietly, "This is what they owe us, not money, but access." The audience applauds. It's a simple truth rendered visible: restitution, not as payment for the past, but as empowerment for the future. 2. The Moral Ledger. Every society keeps two ledgers, one of profit and one of fairness. For centuries, the first has been tallied meticulously while the second has been left vague, written in invisible ink. Yet every unbalanced account eventually demands settlement. In Canada, as in most of the developed world, immense private wealth rests on collective foundations: public infrastructure, unpaid labor, extracted resources, and knowledge created through publicly funded research. These inputs were rarely priced fairly or returned proportionately. Education is the most constructive way to settle that imbalance because it transforms restitution into regeneration. It gives back capacity instead of currency. 3. The Historical Debts. For strands of unpaid contribution run through Canada's prosperity. Indigenous lands and knowledge. The nation's geography and resource wealth were made accessible through treaties often broken or misunderstood. Traditional ecological knowledge shaped early agriculture, forestry, and medicine, yet its stewards received neither recognition nor revenue. Unpaid and undervalued labor. Women's domestic work, caregiving, and community building formed an invisible GDP, estimated by the OECD, at over $570 billion annually in Canada. Migrant and immigrant labor. From the Chinese railway workers of the 1880s to today's agricultural and healthcare migrants, essential labor has often been compensated below its social value. Public research turned private profit. Taxpayer-funded discoveries in universities and labs have repeatedly been commercialized without returning dividends to the citizens who financed them. A knowledge dividend doesn't erase these histories, but it begins to balance their arithmetic. 4. Why education works where money divides. Cash-based reparations, while morally justified, often polarize politics and generate resentment. Education, by contrast, expands opportunity without exclusion. It multiplies rather than redistributes. When knowledge is given freely, no one's share diminishes. Economically, learning behaves like capital investment, non-inflationary, self-replicating, and infinitely renewable. A free open education system thus acts as restorative justice through growth. It returns value by increasing capability. Philosophically, it fulfills what John Rawls called the difference principle: inequalities are acceptable only if they benefit the least advantaged. Universal learning makes that principle operational. 5. Education as a social equalizer. Sociological data confirm that expanded access to education narrows income gaps faster than almost any fiscal policy. In the 1960s, U.S. programs like the GI Bill cut intergenerational poverty rates by 50% among beneficiaries. In Finland, free education from preschool to doctorate lifted the bottom quintile's literacy to near parity with the top within 2 decades. In Canada, every 1% increase in post-secondary completion corresponds to a 0.7% decline in Gini inequality. Unlike welfare, which compensates for deprivation, education prevents it. 6. The global models of restitution through learning. Several nations have already reframed education as social repair. South Africa's Reconstruction and Development Program, 1994, tied access to learning directly to post-apartheid healing, creating literacy and vocational initiatives in every township. Singapore's Skills Future, 2015, issued every citizen learning credits, effectively a universal basic income in education. Nordic welfare states treat lifelong education as an entitlement equal to healthcare, resulting in world-leading equality indices. Each demonstrates that learning can reconcile history while fueling competitiveness. Canada, with its resources and pluralism, can advance this idea further: restitution without resentment.
7.
The knowledge dividend mechanism. How would it work in practice? Every Canadian, upon receiving a SIN number, would automatically gain a learning passport, a digital account within the federal platform preloaded with credits. These can be used for courses, certifications, or mentorship programs. Additional credits accrue through community service or peer teaching, creating reciprocity rather than dependency. The dividends come in two forms. Direct, individuals acquire skills and credentials. Indirect, society gains productivity, civic stability, and cultural literacy. Unlike cash transfers, which end when spent, learning dividends compound with use.
8.
Quantifying the return. A simulation by the Conference Board of Canada found that increasing adult learning participation from 35% to 60% would boost GDP by $56 billion within 10 years and raise federal tax revenue by $9 billion annually. At $3 billion per year, the estimated cost of a national open platform, the program would pay for itself in less than 5 years, after which every dollar becomes surplus return. That's not charity, it's intergenerational investment with exponential yield.
9.
The cultural dividend, learning as reconciliation. Restitution is not only economic, it's emotional. Shared education dissolves stereotypes faster than legislation can. When Indigenous and non-Indigenous learners study together online, history becomes conversation rather than confrontation. Courses on treaty rights, local languages, and environmental stewardship can restore respect as much as knowledge. Similarly, immigrant communities teaching their expertise through the platform reverse the colonial flow of information. Everyone becomes both student and teacher. Education doesn't rewrite history, it rereads it aloud together.
10.
Integrating care work and unpaid labor. By acknowledging learning in caregiving, through microcredentials in eldercare, early childhood education, and community health, the platform formally values what the market undervalues. Care workers gain recognition, society gains resilience. It's restitution through certification, finally paying moral wages where economic ones fell short.
11.
The environmental parallel. Just as carbon offsets compensate for ecological damage, knowledge offsets can compensate for social imbalance. Every corporation benefiting from public infrastructure could be required to contribute content or funding to the learning platform, a knowledge offset program. A company using publicly funded AI models might sponsor digital literacy courses. A mining firm operating on traditional lands might fund environmental modules co-created with Indigenous educators. In this model, restitution becomes partnership rather than penalty.
12.
The emotional payoff. Economic fairness alone rarely unites a country. Emotional fairness does. A citizen who feels the system invests in their mind experiences dignity, not dependence. When every learner receives the same invitation, "You are worth teaching," resentment erodes. As sociologist Pierre Bourdieu observed, education legitimizes hope. It signals that society believes in your potential. That signal, broadcast nationally, repairs trust.
13.
Measuring fairness. The Fairness Constitution from Chapter 10 finds early application here. Metrics of success include reduction in regional and demographic education gaps, increases in literacy and employability among historically marginalized groups, growth in cross-cultural course participation, public trust indices and civic engagement rates. A fairness index tied to the platform's annual audit makes moral accounting measurable.
14.
The Jubilee revisited. In ancient jubilees, land was returned to balance power. In the 21st century, knowledge is the new land, the field where opportunity grows. To redistribute it is to honor the same principle in modern form, that no generation should own the future exclusively. Education as restitution is the digital age's clean slate decree.
15.
Closing argument. Back in the community hall, the graduates lift their tablets for a group photo. Each represents a repaired equation, a life once limited by barriers now connected to the national mind. No check could equal that transformation. When a country funds open education as restitution, it doesn't apologize, it evolves. It turns history into horizon. It replaces guilt with growth and proves that fairness and prosperity are not opposites but synonyms. In this moral arithmetic, the dividends of justice are paid in knowledge, and the interest compounds forever. Chapter 9. Global Precedents, Learning Nations and What Canada Can Learn from Them.
1.
The class